Alright techies, this is episode 7 of the Java Discord bot tutorial series, and in this episode we're going to be working with modals. Now, just as a quick example of what we're going to be creating today, I'm going to do the command /modal, and it's going to open up, this is a modal, and so we've got a couple fields, we've got the name, and we've got the relaxing leg, and then we've got age, let's just say for this example that I'm 100 years old. And then description, you can describe yourself. I like making Discord bots. So I can put submit, and it's going to put it out into an embed. Now, one thing that I'm also going to do is, if we do /modal again, we can see if I click submit, this is required, but age isn't. So if I was to put relaxing leg here, again, this isn't going to like it. If I was to put the description in here, let's make one, then what we can do, there is also the describe yourself thing here. Let's say I put a description here, then we can hit submit, and this age bit is, so it says NA if we haven't put an age in, so the age isn't required. Now, so let's get straight onto this. This is quite a lot, so you're gonna I'm gonna delete all of the example code. We can rewrite it in a moment. So you're going to want to make sure that before we start, you have a command set up to make your modal. I've just got one here, and to make sure to register it in the main for the command manager. So what we're going to do first is, to make our modal, we actually have to have something called a text input. Now, each text input is the box where you write something in. So we have a text input, and I'm going to call this name because it's going to be the name input, and this is going to equal to text input dot create. Now, each field needs an ID, so I'm going to call this name field, and then we need the actual name. This is the name that will be displayed. I'm going to call it name. Then it needs a style, so we'll do text input style, and you can either do short or paragraph. You saw both of these in the intro. You had the text, the short was obviously the smaller box, and the paragraph was the longer box, the description. So for name, I'm just going to do short. So now there's a lot of things we need to do. So there's a lot of different ones we can do here. Obviously we're going to need to build it finally, so I'm just going to put that, and in between I'm going to put, for now, is set required to true. I'm also going to do .set min length to 1. So it's essentially going to do, it's going to create a text input with the name of name, and it's going to set it, so you have to have it, and the minimum length is going to be 1. You can also .set max length. In fact, I'm going to do that, set max length to 100. And so that is how you make one text input. Let's make the one for the description. We can get onto the age bit in a bit. Actually, no, let's do age first. So we can do age equals text input dot create, and we're going to call this age field. This is their ID. I'm going to call this label age text input style. I'm also going to have this one short. Now I'm going to have set required to be false, and so then we can just .build, because obviously there isn't a min or max length, or we can also set a max length if you want, but obviously we're not going to do that. And then for the description, text input description is the same as the others, text input dot create, and we're going to do description field, and we're going to call it, I'm going to call this description, and we can have text input style dot paragraph. Here we're going to do .set required to true. I'm going to do .set min length, but I'm not going to do .set max length, to leave it as the default, and I'm just going to build it. And so here we have all of our input fields. So now we actually need to put these together into a modal. So just like we did with buttons, we're going to put these into modals as action rows, but each of them has to be on a separate action row. So we're going to have a modal equals a modal.create, and so this also needs an ID. So I'm going to call this I don't know, person modal. Let's call it that. And then it needs a title, so I'm going to have it describe itself. So here, again, just like the text inputs, we have a couple of things we can do, namely being add action rows. So we're going to have action row dot of, and so this is going to have, in here we're going to have our name, and in the buttons, if you remember, we would just put them all in this action row dot of method, but that would put them on the same action row. What we need to do is we need to actually have them on separate action. So we're going to have action row dot of, and this is age, and action row dot of description. And obviously this is going to get put in the same order that you put them on here. So if you want your name to come first, make sure you put name first, or age, or whatever you want to come first. Then just here, most of this we don't really need to bother with. We can just do dot build. So this is going to give us our modal. And so finally what we need to do is we actually need to reply to the event, and we're going to do reply modal, just like we did reply embeds. We're going to do reply modal, and we're going to send the modal. And obviously, as always, we need to queue that. So if I were to run this now, what would happen is we would get a modal. So we can do /modal, and we can get this. And we can put in our name, and let's leave the age for now, and description in. But if you've watched the buttons tutorial, you'll probably be able to guess what happens here. If we hit submit, nothing's going to happen because we're not replying to this event. This is also an event we need to apply to, the modal interaction event. One thing I've just realized I would like to go over first before we do this is actually placeholders. So you saw a placeholder earlier. I'm going to put one in for the description. If I do .set placeholder, I'm going to put this as describe yourself. Then if I rerun this, you'll see it's a little bit of text that gets put in the box before you've typed anything. If I do /modal, you'll see it says describe yourself, and if I type something in, it goes away. So that's just a placeholder. It's quite handy to have in certain cases, so I'll tell you that. But now let's actually apply to this event. So just like we did with the buttons, we're going to go into our listener, and we're going to do on modal interaction. And so what we can do is first, again, just like buttons, so modals are very similar to buttons. We can make sure we are getting what modal we're using. So we can get modal ID and check if it equals to the modal ID, which was person modal. And then what we can do is inside here, firstly what I like to do is I like to get all the fields. So I'm going to get the fields. I'm going to do event.getValue, and it's going to be the name field. And we're just going to turn that into a variable. I'm going to call it name value. And you'll see why I'm calling it name value in a minute, but let's get all of these first. We're going to do event.getValue, and this is going to be the age field. And this we can also turn into a variable, age value. And then for the description, we can do the exact same, value, description field, variable, description value. Now, these you'll see are modal mappings rather than actual sort of strings. So if we want to get them as strings, we do, let's say for the name value dot get string. I'm just going to turn this into a variable. And this is going to be name. I'm going to put it name, and it will give you a warning saying it can give null pointer and it could be null. This is because obviously if it's not a required field, it could be empty. So this, because we know name is required, it will always be full. It should always be full. So I'm going to leave it like this. You can do some error checking if you want, but I'm just going to leave it like this. And we can do the same for the description. And this, enter this, we can just do description value, get string. But obviously the age is going to be a bit different. So the way what I would do is I do if the age value dot get a string dot is blank, then we can do this, and else do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a default value. So I'm going to have string age up here. So I'm going to have a default value if it is blank. So I'm going to set it as age equals n/a, and here if it isn't blank, we can just do age dot, or we can just do age value get string. Sorry, age equals age value get string. And obviously this is a very single this case thing. You might want to do it in a different way for different modals. So for a different modal, you might just want to leave it blank. You might want to have a boolean to say whether it's been filled out or not. But for this, I'm just going to put it like this, just for the sake of simplicity. And this, we're mainly showing off how the modal works here. So now what we can do is we just want to reply to this interaction with, I'm going to apply with an embed, just to make things a little nicer. So I'm going to call this builder equals new embed builder, and just set the title. I'm going to set the title as name, and then the set description as the description of name, and we can do builder dot add field. So then I'm going to add the name. Oh, I'm going to do these as not in line. Builder dot add field, age false, and builder dot add field description. Now obviously this is just simple embed stuff, so you should hopefully already know how to make an embed, and then we can just apply to the interaction, apply embeds, builder dot build, and we're going to queue that. And so now hopefully what should happen, what we're seeing here is we're getting all the values. Well, firstly obviously we're checking that we're using it's the correct modal. Then we're getting all of the values and as modal mappings, then we're getting them as strings, and the ones that are not required, we're making sure we at least have something for them, and then we're just putting them into an embed and applying with it. So if I stop and rerun, we should see that we can do /modal, and we can put in a name. I'm going to put in leg, age, just put in 100 again, and then describe yourself. I like making Discord. So if I do submit, we should see we get an embed with all of this. And if we miss out the age, so if I do modal, that's relaxing leg. If I miss out the age, description, we should get an NA age, but the others should not be able to be missed out. They are required. And that is a basic overview of modals. One thing I will mention is you can only have up to 5 action rows. So you can only have up to 5 inputs. But hopefully, if your modal isn't too complicated, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. So that is what we're going to do with this episode. Hopefully you found it helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.